Hello everyone, this is part 2 of our series of videos on EyesFree Android. We'll be showing a key concept in this video that we'll be using throughout the rest of the applications that we will demonstrate. So this is one of the key concepts that we are using for EyesFree interaction with the touchscreen. So you might ask, what does it mean to even use a touchscreen and an on-screen keyboard when you're not looking at it? Most people shake their heads and walk away saying, it's an on-screen keyboard, you have to look at it. But let's sort of probe a little further and ask, why do you have to look at an on-screen keyboard to use it? Might sound like an absurd question, but it's still worth asking. The reason you need to look at the screen to use an on-screen keyboard is obviously because you need to know where the buttons are. So let's ask that question. Why do you need to know where the buttons are? Well, because the buttons are positioned absolutely on the screen. So the buttons are in a fixed position and you need to look to see where the buttons are. So what if I relax that constraint? What if I said, instead of you having to look to see where a button is in order to push it, what if the buttons placed themselves under your finger based on where you touched it? So let's think relative positioning. So let's demonstrate this idea with a keypad all of us are very familiar with, which is the well-known phone keypad. We all know its layout. 5 is in the center and all the digits are around it. So since we're going to be using relative positioning, rather than saying you must look at the screen to see where 5 is, let's make 5 show up wherever you touch the screen. So watch. You touch the screen and you get a 5. You can touch wherever you like on the screen and you get a 5. There. Now you don't have to touch the absolute center of the screen, but as you'll see as we show you this technique, it's useful to touch it somewhere in the middle so that you have space for all the buttons. Now as I said, wherever you touch the screen is 5, but if that's where 5 is, you know what the layout of the phone keypad is. You know that 2 is above 5 and 8 is below it and whatever. So put your finger down and then stroke up and you get a 2. You put your finger down and stroke down and you get an 8. You know that 1 is up and to the left of 5, so you put your finger down and stroke diagonally up. Now notice that this is a very simple technique. As you are learning it, if you are looking at the screen, you can actually see that keyboard popping up. But in actual fact, that's just a crutch. You don't even need to see that because you know how the phone keypad is laid out. Another interesting thing to observe is that you heard a slight auditory tick as the finger moved over the buttons on the display. That's actually quite important. In the real world, in the physical world, when you touch things, when you press things, you hear, you feel, and that's synchronized. So what we do in Marvin in this technique called stroke dialing is that we actually produce an auditory tick and we also produce a slight vibration and we synchronize that. So that actually feels like you're moving over a physical button and pressing it. And with this technique in hand now, you can actually start doing touch gestures on the screen without looking at it, which, as you'll see during the rest of these talks, becomes a very useful technique for interacting with the phone when you don't want to look at it. Thank you and look forward to the next video.